Hello and welcome to my guide to the TalentLMS platform for students. This guide will cover quite a few things. For example, how to log into the platform, the various layouts of the platform and your module, submitting assessments and activities, checking e-learning progress, some problems you may encounter and how to solve them. It's important to learn some basics regarding this platform so you'll be able to navigate it more easily, as well as solve problems that you may need to later on. Reason being is because you often use this platform for your activities, assessments, and e-learning for your various modules at TAFE-TC. So without further ado, let's begin logging in. It is relatively easy as you'll be provided your email, the login ID, as well as a password for your account. Inside the email that you receive, there will also be the URL link to the TalentLMS website. Once you click on that link, you arrive here. At the top right, click on Login, and you'll see where you can input your username and your password. Your username is the email that you registered with us, and your password will be TAFE-TC followed by the last few digits of your NRIC. Check your email for the specifics. Once you're ready, you can click Login to go to your TalentLMS portal. So this will be the first page you will see when you enter your learner's account for the first time, except maybe without so many classes inside. As part of the basic layout, you'll see a bunch of tabs on the right side, as well as the top. You will also see your courses listed over here in the middle, as well as a search bar at the very top in order to help you find your courses later faster. Courses that you have completed will not be in this page under Courses in Progress, but instead will be under Completed Courses. So do look here for courses that you already completed and finished previously. In order to show you as an example, I will show you one of the classes I'm looking for Identify and Analyze Textiles, which is usually a very common first class for diploma students. Find the search bar, and after that, type in the shortcut version of the word to make it easier. Find the class you're looking for, and then click on it. The class will then load. So now it's just, I understand that it might look a little bit confusing, but don't worry, I'll explain everything. So at the very top, you'll see the title of the class, followed by a specific code. This code is the one that you want to take a look at, because this code, to ensure that you're in the right class, is the same one as the one that you'll be in the WhatsApp group associated with. Below that, you see a bunch of descriptive information telling you who to look for problems and so much and so forth. But more importantly, if your class is e-learning, this will also be mentioned over here, especially the minimum amount of hours that you must clock. So in this case, 9 for this class. Now below that, you see the section content and the actual content below that. We call these individual parts units to make things a little bit more clear for us. This is the e-learning, for example, in the various different chapters, as well as the quizzes associated with each e-learning chapter. Quizzes are generally auto-marked in TalentLMS, hence once you finish it, you immediately get your grade. Provided you didn't get 100% and you wish to try again, you can always do so. These quizzes for e-learning are not part of your actual assessment, so don't worry about making mistakes or not doing as well. Now as you scroll down further, the next major section you see are files. Under files, this is where you can download the various files that might be used in your class's activities or assessments. So it's important to know where you can download them, and most commonly it will be in TalentLMS. Now, the next important thing I need to point out, for example, notice that there are no units under class activity, assessment, and Zoom recordings. Why is that the case? Sometimes your trainers will hide these activities and assessment when they believe it is not yet time or when the class is ready to see these activities or the assessments. So don't worry if you don't see it there yet, chances are your trainer just hasn't shown it. It is not a problem of the system, neither is it a bug. And this is the general layout of the module as well as the learner version of TalentLMS. I advise you to look around and explore the layout of these modules so you familiarize yourself with it and makes it easier for you to navigate in the future. Submitting answers for your assessments and activities in TalentLMS is a relatively simple process. Now, this is a temporary demo class that I created particularly for this demonstration. In the middle, take a look. Notice that some units have a tick mark next to them. This is to mean that they have already been completed, but the one that we want to really look at is the one in the middle that has a pen as a symbol next to it. This is basically a symbol for an assignment. meaning that when you submit your work here, your trainers are required to actually manually grade your work, so it is not auto-marked by the system. To submit an assignment, let's just go inside first. At the very top in this tab, this is where you generally would see the question of the assignment. In this case, this is just a simple one for demonstration. When you actually see it for the first time, you will see 4 the buttons that you can click on below: text reply, upload a file, record video, and record audio. Generally, we do not use the latter 2. However, we do use the former 2 much more often. So how do we submit an answer? For example, in the case of upload a file, this is usually when you're required to download the file, fill it out, and then submit it. Or for example, when you're in a construct class, you'll be required to take pictures of the thing you made and then submit that instead. So to upload the file, just click on it, and you can see upload your reply and continue. When you mouse your cursor over, do take note there's a small tab that opens up that shows you what kind of files are accepted, as well as the maximum size of those files. Generally, for Excel, Word documents, and PowerPoint, it's about 200 megabytes. Same thing for pictures, relatively. If they're zipped. However, if you were to upload a picture by itself, do take note it only accepts about 10 megabytes. Now, click on this button, and the file viewer will open up. That allows you to search for the file that you save on your computer and then submit it. When you're ready, for example, if this is the file I was looking for, you click on it and then click open to submit the file. Now, going back, for example, let's go to the first one that I mentioned just now, which is text reply. Text reply, when you click on it, will open up this blank space that allows you to just type whatever answer that you wish to. For example, this is my fake answer. After which, when you're ready to submit your answer, you can send your reply. Now, when you see this page, pending a reply from instructor, that means your instructor has successfully received your answer and will now be reviewing it and marking it later on. So you can now be rest assured. At this part, you can also check your answer to see whether what you submitted was correct. For example, this is my fake answer listed over here. And you can also modify your answer, and this is usually used, for example, when you accidentally submitted the wrong file or notice that you want to perfect your answers a little bit more. It can also be used when your trainer believes that your answer is not suitable enough and will ask you to resubmit. You can then click on modify your answer, and it will bring you back to the original 4 options for you to submit your answer. And that is how you submit within assessments and activities. A common question we often receive from students is how to check their e-learning progress. And it is quite important for students to be able to check their e-learning progress in order to make sure that they meet their e-learning goals. So at the home page where you currently are at, in order to check your e-learning progress, look at the right side and see the bunch of tabs. Go to the second one that says Progress. After clicking on it, you'll be brought to this page where you can see a bunch of statistics. Do not worry too much about these statistics, you can take a look at it yourself. However, the one that we want to go to is at the very top. You see a bunch of more tabs, and you want to go to the one that says Courses. Click on that. This will then show a list of every single course you did. If you cannot find the one you're looking for, you can look for it in the search button at the bottom here, or extend it out to look at more different courses that you have already taken in the past. While the list of courses are here, you can see also that the progress is over here. Then there's a score, which followed by when you're enrolled, the completion date of that module, as well as the total e-learning time you spent in that module. The most important one that you have to look at is progress and time. Now, do take note that every single module for e-learning has a minimum required amount of time that you need to fulfill, and you can check whether you met the time over here or not. Also take note that regarding your e-learning, you should also reach 100% of all units in terms of completion. If you're able to achieve 100% on your completion for progress, as well as the time for your e-learning units, that means that you successfully completed your e-learning goals. Do take note that students who have not completed e-learning goals must tell the instructor before the assessment. If not, they will not be able to take the assessment, and only for valid reasoning. For example, if they run into technical difficulties. which I'll be talking more in terms of the problems that you may encounter and how to solve them. Now, time to time, students will encounter problems within the e-learning system, and some of these problems can be easily solved, but understandably so, it can be confusing to students on how to solve them. So here is a short troubleshoot in order to help them. Now, firstly, the more common problem that students sometimes run into is that when they go through the e-learning isn't ticked off, meaning that it isn't marked as complete. For example, when I go through the e-learning here, I can run into a problem where, for example, I might complete chapter 1 and then 2, but chapter 3 is left incomplete for some reason, and then followed by 4, 5, 6, and then again 7 is left incomplete. Why is this the case? Often the most major reasons why students are not able to complete the e-learning is 1. They lose internet connection, or the internet connection is not stable while going through the e-learning, and 2, which is more likely, is that students didn't actually fully go through the e-learning. Our e-learning, while it is quite linear and easy for it to go through, also has sometimes tabs, for example, to give students extra information regarding certain content within the e-learning. Students will often skip this, maybe because it's not obvious enough, or sometimes maybe because they are trying to rush to the end, but it can sometimes result in an incomplete process of the e-learning, and hence when the system recognizes it, it will make sure to mark the student as not yet completed e-learning. Hence, firstly, I will advise you to firstly go back to the e-learning that you have not yet completed and make sure that you click on every button and saw every single content, and do not skip through as much as possible. Another problem that may occur for students is meeting the minimum required amount of time regarding the e-learning modules. Previously, we've already explained how to check progress for time regarding your various modules, but meeting it sometimes can be a different matter altogether. And often, these are the following reasons why students cannot meet their e-learning time. Sometimes students will run into a situation where they manage to track e-learning for a period of time and then suddenly no longer able to track it for some bizarre reason. These following reasons, if you were to fall into any of them, I advise you to make sure that you check how you perform your e-learning so as to ensure that you would be able to track time. Firstly, make sure you do not leave the tab of the e-learning when you're watching it. Often, students like to, for example, passively listen to the e-learning while watching YouTube or checking social media, or sometimes they even try to do the e-learning while also listening to class at the same time. While this isn't exactly wrong, we do encourage against this because when you leave the e-learning tab, this causes the e-learning to automatically pause, and this includes time tracking. Hence, only when you return to the tab does the e-learning able to resume, and time will also be able to track again. So make sure that you actually stay on the tab of the e-learning when you're actually doing it. This to ensure that students actually do the e-learning. Secondly, don't check your time tracked in a different tab while still watching the e-learning. Sometimes students want to make sure that they're actually tracking time properly, so they go to the progress tab where we are currently at, and then while they're also watching e-learning on a different tab, and then they switch between back and forth to see whether the time is actually going up. Now do take note that if your e-learning is actually tracking time properly, it will only fully update your progress once that e-learning is over, or once you leave that e-learning. While the e-learning is still going on and you're trying to check your progress in time, you will note that it has not moved at all. So only check after and not during. Next, check that your internet connection is actually stable. A common problem that students run into is that, for example, if the e-learning fails halfway due to internet instability, chances are your progress and your time will not be updated because the system was not able to track your e-learning due to not being able to connect with your laptop or your computer. So check that. Next, you can also not track e-learning, and this is quite important. You're not able to track e-learning time on units that's already been completed. Previously, in the previous troubleshoot regarding e-learning progress means percentage of completion, right? I made note that my 3rd chapter and my 7th chapter were left incomplete while the other chapters were already completed. What do I mean is that if I try to rewatch e-learning in chapters that have already been completed, the amount of time will not actually go up. So if you want to make sure that you actually spend time doing your e-learning, do make sure that while you're going through the e-learning and you're watching your incomplete e-learning, that it will only then track properly rather than trying to go back to an e-learning that's already been completed. Lastly, make sure that you have no firewalls or internet protections that is actually blocking TalentLMS. Students often, especially the ones that's more technologically savvy, would, rightly so, download a lot of internet protections to make sure they don't get viruses, but sometimes these protections can be so complete that they will block out any kind of external interference, and some of it might include TalentLMS. If this is the case, TalentLMS will also be blocked from tracking e-learning time. So please make sure that any protections or firewalls that you use actually allow access to TalentLMS. And these are usually the 5 main reasons why students are not able to track their e-learning time properly. Sometimes students will run into the issue where no matter how much or how hard they try to search for their specific class, they just simply can't find it. Now, if that's the case, the important thing to firstly ask is the customer relation experts to ask whether the class has yet been set up. Sometimes if you ask too early, the class has not yet been set up, and classes are usually only set up in TalentLMS roughly between 4 to 6 days before the class begins. Any longer than that, and chances are the class will not be there yet. However, if you find that you're getting closer to the class start date or the class e-learning start date, and you have not yet been inside the class, naturally, of course, that is understandable that you find yourself panicked, and all you have to do is that you have to communicate with the customer relation experts within your WhatsApp group to ensure that maybe you might have been missed out in your class when you're being registered inside the TalentLMS class. From there on, our staff members will then work to move you quickly into the class so you can then begin your e-learning and have access to the class materials. And that's everything I have for you today in this guide. I hope this guide was helpful to you and helped make your e-learning journey a little bit easier, especially regarding TalentLMS and TAFTC. If there are any feedbacks you have regarding this TalentLMS guide, please do not hesitate to mention it to our staff members, as we can always continue to keep improving the guides that we have to make students' life a little bit easier. If you have any other questions, however, also please don't hesitate to contact our staff members, as they might be able to at least relate you to someone who will be able to answer your questions. I hope you have a great time at TAFTC and have an enjoyable time using this TalentLMS portal.